Good morning, everyone. Great to see you here. And on this lovely, fine morning, as I look out my window, we had the pleasure to be speaking with Stella Jinman this morning. And just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. If you could all put your mics on mute, would be great, please. That just stops any interference with when we're having our conversation. There's also any questions that you might have is more than welcome to put that into the chat room, and we can ask Stella later on towards the end of our session. And also I'll be asking little questions as we go along for our chat. So just before we start, I'd love to know where you are all from. What school are you currently at? So if you could just type in the chat room below where you are all coming from would be fantastic. What schools have we got on board? Let's have a look at how that chat's going. So we've got Taryn from Warnbro, we've got Alison from Baldivis, Todd Clark from Chewett Rise in Baldivis, must be a friend of Alison's as well. We've got David Wonstel, I can see there, he's from Balladura. He was our guest from last week. All right, thank you very much for that, people. Good morning, Stella. How are you today?
Good morning. Well, I'm awake and getting back into the swing of these early mornings after being on holiday and relaxing.
Yes, you have been on a bit of a break. Have you been on, is it your long service leave? Is that what I presume?
Yes, that's correct.
Right, and you actually do it in style, I see, Stella, so...
Yes.
Tell us a quick little story about what this big machine is all about.
Okay, well, you're only seeing one part of it. It's a 22-footer. It's very new. It's got about 3 different rooms. It's self-contained, semi-off-road. It's a palace on wheels. And, you know, my friends who know me will say, Stella, you're not camping, you're glamping. And
yeah,
I know Patricia's probably smiling at that point.
Well, it's good to get away. And this is a lovely scene. Whereabouts is this?
Oh, look, that's Monkey Mire. And yes, it was beautiful up there and hanging out with the dolphins.
Nice.
It was definitely to be envied. That was really wonderful.
The weather looked really nice. Warm?
Oh, yes. It was beautiful weather. It was nearly perfect at times. We were along the Coral Coast and we went right as far as the Pilbara.
Wow. Okay.
Mm.
And
yes.
I dare say these little people come with you each as well?
These two are inseparable from us. They love camping, and you can see they're out on the beach with me, my little fur babies.
Now, this one here was an interesting photo. Is this
oh, yes,
for the
up close and personal with a snake? That, yes, we were going to lift it up because, you know, we weren't 100% sure, but that one is harmless. So it's one you can pick up with your hands. It's a black-headed python. Someone out there might correct me if they're a scientist and say, no, Stella, that's deadly, don't touch it. And I would definitely stay away then.
Well, I would say that that snake is a good starting point for our conversation with you in regards to courage. I look at that snake and I thought, wow, if Stella was out there to pick it up, it would take some courage. And you've taken some courage a few years ago when you started at Cecil Andrews College. Why would I call that such a brave step for you, Stella, when you took on that particular role as principal?
Well, I guess because the constant chatter was about the school closing down. And I literally did have people coming up to me asking me if they'd have a job. And everyone had heard the gossip and the news that there'd probably be either our school or Armidale Senior High School remaining. And people were very demoralised. It really was very negative when I first walked through the doors. But I always like a challenge.
Yes, you certainly do like a challenge. And just for the people viewing, could you describe what sort of culture and what the atmosphere was like when you drove down that corridor of trees, etc., into your new school so many years ago?
Yeah, so one of the staff had called that the Twilight Zone driveway So once you drive down there, you enter into a different context. And I realized that we really had a lot of work to do on the culture in particular. And, you know, there was a lot of violence going on and students were climbing all over the top of the roof. And, you know, somebody would be on the phone in the staff room and they had what they called Operation Roundup. And the results, as you know well, were really dismal. And so we used the data to crack the cement initially.
Yeah. Right. Now, could you give us a little bit of a background of where these students come from? What's their home life like? So we get a really good picture of that now.
Yeah, I think we are definitely in a context where we have Australia's most vulnerable. We have students with really embedded, ingrained poverty. There's a lot of domestic violence, trauma, drug taking, high levels of crime. We've got a lot of incarceration, students and parents. There's just really deep disadvantage. That's the area of Armidale. And so we're dealing with students who come from a multitude of backgrounds, very multicultural. We have one of the highest Aboriginal populations as well.
Mm-hmm. And you were telling me about a story, just to really bring it into the context, is a young person who mother was or father was incarcerated and then they were sleeping in a motor vehicle. Is that right?
Yes. The father was incarcerated, but the mother and the siblings were all sleeping in a car. They were living in the car.
Right.
And I have many other stories, but, you know, we won't have time. But yeah, there's a lot of struggling students out there with incredible tenacity and persistence to break through barriers now, but the backgrounds that they're coming from would really shock a lot of people that in this day and age what they are enduring. And, you know, quite a few of our students are actually breadwinners for the family. So they're studying and they're employed as well.
Yeah, so it gives us a bit of a context, but of course our interview isn't going to go on about that in that sense. We're going to be actually looking at how we come from that and how we work through that at your school. You've done some amazing things, and I think that's really worth celebrating. Stella, what's your motto as you drive through that twilight zone each morning? What do you use to keep yourself invigorated and positive?
Yes. Be the change you want to see. Gandhi, I live by that. We've got to exemplify that, and we're the role models. Our rebranded school motto, achieving excellence together, which speaks volumes about collaboration, and that was initiated by one of our students on the school board with Student Voice. And also that students really don't and shouldn't be defined by their postcode. We need to keep our expectations high and our belief in what these children are capable of at the top of what we want to see them aspire to, and that's how they can stretch and reach for the stars.
Yes, you've got your AFL program. Do you have that running at Cecil Andrews?
Oh, yes. The students, because they are so resilient, they'll often win and be in the top league in the ladder with wins against, you know, some of our elite private schools and schools that have very good football programs. And I think that's probably because of the tenacity that they have and that never give up attitude. And, you know, we have to sometimes stop students from competing, being on the field with quite serious injuries. Like we got into trouble with a parent because we didn't realise that the child was playing with a ruptured spleen. And I mean, the staff and students are both like that. You know, I've got my AFL specialist teacher had a serious ankle injury and was still playing. And, you know, it's very difficult because they are really resilient and tough. They might be the underdogs, but they've got something special when it comes to their ability to persevere.
It's been a bit of a journey for you, of course, over the years that you've been there. I'm interested in how you brought your staff along with you on that journey, and what was your initial vision for the staff so they could basically get on board? How did you go about
the vision has to be very, very strong and clear. We've got to have that shared vision, shared understandings. And that galvanized everybody. Like, we really believed that the students could aspire and achieve to their full potential. And then we really made it a 21st century vision, and the case for change was really compelling that, you know, we need that diversity. We need all of our students, particularly the ones who are marginalised, Aboriginal students and girls, and that they can rise above and do better. And everybody was singing from the same song sheet. And that's what was incredibly powerful, because it's like an avalanche. It just grows until, you know, everyone was excited, staff were empowered and feeling valued. And that's coming from, you know, being in a war zone survival mode. So it's a complete reversal. And we do boast some of the best staff in the state. And that also is an issue in itself. That's another one of our challenges, keeping them, because they really are in popular demand.
Yes, yes. I must imagine that when you came on board, you created that vision, you articulated the vision and the objectives. Was it that some of the staff there were actually looking for this sort of vision, and then that's what propelled your first responders to get on board, and then slowly other people saw what the benefits were?
I think so, Luke, because, you know, they needed hope. Just the whole community was in a space where they all needed to have that hope and belief that they can do it. And that's my belief as well, that I can do it, and they need to know that they can do it. And so for each and every one of them, we don't want any of them left behind. And that's how I believe all the staff view the students. They really care about them. There's that deep care for the children, and that's what really sets them above.
One of the most admiring qualities of yours, Stella, is every time we have a bit of a chat, you always talk about the children. It's whatever decisions you make, it's always about the students and the future of your students. Have you found that's really been ingrained in you across your many years in education? You've never wavered from the student and their potential?
That's a lifelong learning lesson that I gained very clearly from Broome Senior High School, where we saw incredible transformation there and students achieved. And that was a sustainable model that still goes on today. It's well talked about. And then I think, you know, at Comet Bay, what I learned there from a visionary principal there was really about turning challenges into opportunities. Without challenge, there can be no opportunity. So that's propelled me and our school community forward in believing we can achieve a vision that's, you know, set at a very high precedent and standard.
Yes, and it's articulated very well. I've noticed there are signs and images and awards all around the school. So you definitely understand that you're in a high-performing school. You mentioned your principal there at Comet Bay. I'm interested, were there other mentors, or could you talk about some of the mentors that you've had in your life or leaders that you've aspired to or that have helped you through your career?
Well, Peter Holtz, who was my coach with Fogarty Advance, we know he's one of the most brilliant Australian principals. Gary Downs, but, you know, the list goes on. Patricia Joss, who's here, is a wonderful mentor to me. She leads the network with me in the SEC network, which is a large network, 23 schools. There's a few other people I could really talk about, but, you know, Lynn Beasley, the former chief scientist, has always been, she's just emulates youth and positivity, and she loves the fact that students are willing to be explorers with their science, and, you know, she likes to see them all achieving, no matter where they come from, or starting point or backgrounds. So these people, I find, can really inspire one.
Yeah. And from all those inspirations, could you tell us a few of these awards that you've had? And let's leave humble to the side at the moment, Stella, because you have achieved some greatness or recognised for some of the work that you've been doing over the years. So please tell us about the last 2 awards that you've just received in the last few years, and how you got those awards and who was in the competition, etc.
Well, with the Telstra Business Award, over 22,000 applied for that. And so to be a finalist in that category was very exciting for education as well, to have a to have a presence, because I think a lot of these businesses don't necessarily see education. That's sort of on the side, and that's not where it should be. Business and industry needs to be linked integrally to what we do today in contemporary education. I was also fortunate enough to win an Excellence Award in the National Principal of the Year Awards, and I think that gained recognition for Western Australia as well, that principals can come from there and, kick goals. And I think that's really great to be able to display that across these incredible Australian schools. And I was privileged to be there in that area to see others who have achieved great things and to learn from them as well.
It was well deserved, as I say, well deserved. Now, the other part that you just mentioned there was about schools or education and business. Now, you have some pretty big partnerships out there at the Cecil Andrews College. Deloitte's partners in with your STEM program. I'm interested, could you tell us a little bit more about some of the other partners and how you bridge the gap to get business involved with education, because of course that's the future. We have the child, leaves school, gets employed, but how did you approach it and start that? Because it's quite innovative, I thought.
Yes, I think as educators and leaders, it's imperative that we actually are entrepreneurial. There is no space to be in silos. We need to co-design curriculum. I think the thing is that these businesses, yes, all our businesses are global but local, and we're in long-term sustainable relationships with them. They all know that the youth are their future, that we have a population where we're going to lose the experts, the veterans and the baby boomers, and that they can't fill the positions, they haven't got them trained and ready. And it's our role to have students job capable. Like, we need them to understand and recognise the skills that they have and what they bring, and also to have the technology and the ability to move in that field and to integrate and to work through the project-based learning and problem solving and critical thinking. And so once we show that we've got students with that capacity and we're very real about preparing them for the future and the jobs that haven't even been invented yet, they're only too keen to jump in and be part of that picture. In fact, they're very excited to. Santos, our latest partners, came to us as a PTEC. We didn't have to look anymore because that's what they want to do. They're all being asked, what are we going to do about our children? How are we going to get them prepared and ready for the future? And they're genuinely concerned. So the important part of that is that you need to meet with them regularly. It's actually about keeping current and having those real-time conversations around the table. Like the last PTEC meeting I went to before I went on holiday was the most stimulating, exciting experience, because all these incredible people from Austal Ships and CivMec and Deloitte and TELUS all sitting around the table coming up with ideas and curriculum, and that's what we want for the students. And it starts there with the adults in the room starting to look at education and learning in a different way and bringing it together. And one of the teachers from another school was telling another teacher about how they visited our school because they came to learn from us, and what they noticed straight away was the torpedo in the school. And sometimes you forget that all that they bring into the equation can make learning experiences very experiential, very real, and keep students at the centre.
Just then, when you're talking about you in the room with the other businesses, I just visualise that from education and school straight into employment, right there in the room. There's that bridge.
Singing is harder than I thought.
Sorry, Luke, my technology just turned on me. That's the trouble with artificial intelligence, isn't it? Which we're really into. And I'm not even sure what you said, but one of our Aboriginal students recently won an award. He was a very quiet, shy, unassuming boy. He won an award for his artificial intelligence. But you'll have to repeat your question because I lost the mic for a minute. I lost the sound then.
Okay, no, I was just saying that my picture of you in the room with business, I visualised that bridge from education into employment and occupation is very close, and it must be very exciting for you and also the actual businesses in the room to see that transition. because as you were saying before, I think maybe they sort of sit to one side, and then when the children come out, they sort of have to herd them. But now they're actually in the room, especially when you say things like what they want from their curriculum. That's really good. It's very exciting.
Well, it's one thing to hear from an engineer. It's another thing to be working side by side with them. And those craftsmen passing on their talent and their ideas. And it's the mentoring on the side as well. But, you know, everybody contributes to a student's life and their learning, and suddenly doors open in their thinking, their eyes open about, you know, all the kids who came running after they saw the CivMec robotic spider and what it could do. They all wanted to do work experience out there. They wouldn't have thought of that before. When we worked with Western Power, one of the Aboriginal girls straight away asked for an apprenticeship and got it. So, you know, they wouldn't know it if they see it, they believe it, they know they can possibly do it. And that's going to make a big difference.
Stella, you were just, when you were talking about your technology, your STEM and the robotics, I know that you do a lot of work very collaboratively out there in the networks, and you've had your teacher actually go down into primary schools and take that STEM and science. That's been one of your visions, again, one of our very first meetings, about having a K to 12 journey. And you've done a lot of work to get your network together. I know Patricia's been really strong on that. How's that been? How's that going? And what's that communication between primary schools and high schools? And what's the advantages that you've seen?
What we're doing is incredible. We're building a pipeline of talent. And by sharing our exemplary practice together and not being, you know, competitive and territorial, what we're finding is everybody wins, and the students, most of all, are the winners. It's a win-win situation. And what we're doing is our staff are mentoring each other, our lighthouse leaders, and a lot about our vision is to do with leadership and about developing leaders and aspirant leaders, and then having them lead and direct across the network and have those opportunities for walls to come down and the deprivatisation of classrooms. And what we're finding is that we're learning from the best of everybody, and it's great because what we're doing is supporting the staff and supporting the students. There was no robotics when I first started with our robotics program, and now it's throughout our primary schools, as well as our local secondaries that we work with, and working with universities and, you know, their engineers. And what we're seeing is that the students are getting great mentoring opportunities through that as well. But it's got a kick-on effect. I remember at one of the local primary schools that a teacher was then teaching another teacher in the classroom next door. So we're not relying just on, you know, one or two of our initial expert teachers. They pass on and share their talent, and soon they're teaching each other. And plus the students are teaching them and us.
It sounds like a really clever way of taking PD, professional development, and instead of just a one-day workshop, just a consistent contact with the students and the teachers. But then I love that then ongoing teacher to teacher. It's very clever, and I'd say it also excites the teachers in themselves, because I've always, you know, high school teachers will say, oh, you know, wish we would have done this in primary school, but now they get the opportunity to actually be part of the solution.
Yes, and we also have a very clever teacher who developed a Moodle. So I'm a believer in what I call pajama PL. That means people can stretch the time of, they could be sitting on the pajamas, eating popcorn on the couch and listening when it suits them. And I think that's important too. We got the technology to augment time. And with people in lockdown at the moment, what an ideal opportunity to actually get our blended learning escalated, but also to give teachers a chance to spend that time to actually develop in themselves, because we've got to be really, really agile. We're in these VUCA times, and that's another one of my beliefs, is to be agile. Yes, it's not going to go away. We're in the times that are volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous. And so we need to be at our A game at all times. And to do that, we have to keep challenging ourselves. We need to develop ourselves professionally, and we need to recognise and value those who are leaders and help them to lead others, because often teachers are very humble and they will be doing marvelous things in the classroom, and we need to open those doors and let them share and exemplify that. And that's been some of our most exciting breakthroughs, like when we worked with SciTech. We did a hands-on K-12, and that was one of the most popular things we did. And I also got emails and photos in the school holidays when my staff ran workshops in the STEM Centre, and they were all saying, we need more of this. This is what we want. So I think we need to start doing a lot more of that so that people can share from each other's excellence in their classroom practice. And I think that's what will spread. It's very contagious. People can see it and they want it, and it's exciting to them.
Good stuff. Now, Stella, I've got a little note here from Leslie Wintle in regards to the previous school review that's just occurred. And I'd like to share this with you. This was an email from her after the validation and meeting with all the staff at Cecil Andrews College. Stella, I really enjoyed being on the review team for your school. It was a very rewarding experience for me to see another school that is doing such a great job in a very difficult circumstances. You have great programs in place to counter the effects of huge social disadvantage, intergenerational trauma, and high incarceration family members. Your staff are wonderful and are all on board with what you are trying to do. I'm in awe of what you are undertaking and achieving. Have a great break. That is well deserved, Leslie Wintle. Stella, you've just gone through the review. I mean, that is a glowing, straight off the cuff, informal but very credible affirmation of what you're doing out there. How do you feel about that and your school review in general, and how that went for you?
Well, actually, Leslie was moved to tears by the students' stories. And to me, that's got to form a big part of what we do in these reviews. It's a great opportunity with the new review to actually explain and share what we're doing and to validate. I mean, the reviewers validate, and we had Brett Hunt as well. Now, he's got years of experience in expert review groups, and he was also equally impressed, highly impressed with what we were doing, to the point where they want us to share some changes to how we actually gather and look at measuring data. Because, you know, if we want all of our students in accordance with our strategic directions of the department to be on meaningful and successful pathways, then we've actually got to be able to identify and help the students identify and know their skills and talents. And they have to be able to work in a way that allows them to identify and to use those talents and to problem solve and reason. And then we need to be able to measure and attach that to their outcomes and results in tangible ways. And that's the practical part of it. And so I found it an amazing process. The new review in particular, I liked our previous one as well. I've been through both. But this one really puts the onus on us. We are the ones reviewing ourselves and self-assessing. It's all about self-assessment. And then we present, and then they either validate or they don't validate. And in that process, we all learn. I found it was really great for it again, really got us as a cohesive team all working together and looking at ourselves really transparently and, you know, really looking microscopically at everything we do and how we do it and evaluating it, and how we had some really great, robust discussions along the way. And yeah, it was stressful at times, but now I think what a great way for us to keep pressing in to what we really want, which is improvement for the good of the students so they can excel and be the best they can be. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. Now, we've only got a few minutes to go, so I'm now going to open it out to all our viewers. Now, you can take your mics off, put your face on video, etc. Is there anybody that might like to have a quick question with Stella before we start to wrap this up? Anything? Yes, we got a Mel Kettle. Mel, have you got a question for Stella? You got a hand up? You might need to take off mute there, Mel. Let me just check. Ask to unmute. No? No one else? We've obviously hit the nail on the head then. hold on, we have got a Mel. It says that, no. Okay. Look, people, thank you very much, Stella. That was a really insightful and interesting journey that you've taken just on Cecil Andrews. We could have gone through your whole career, but that was enough just to be able to give us a really good taste of what great work you're doing out there, especially in the Armidale area, and getting all the schools on board. So thank you very much, Stella, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your time at on holidays. And I dare say you're itching to get back into the seat there at Cecil Andrews College.
Yes, the longer I stay away, the more I want to get back. And I must say, my principal counterpart I chose, who's made it into the APPP, which is the Principal Preparation Program, has loved every second of it. So it's got into our heart, and that's what happens at Cecil Andrews College. It's the Cecil's way. We're a family. It's a family culture. And so I'm really proud of that. And yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to get back.
Good stuff. And thanks very much, Christine. She said, thanks our students and teachers need principals like you. Narelle Black, thank you for sharing. David Wanstall, great job, Stella. Your story is very inspiring. So we've got some great people that really enjoyed it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope it helps and you can learn something that you can apply, because I think we all need support. It's not easy out there. And I just want to say, I've had a challenging journey, but, never give up.
Never give up. Be the change that you want to see. Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy your day.